Hello. It does look very lovely. We had to experiment with getting a two-person in the same place video set up. Hey, everybody. We're done. Heather, Leslie, my mom's here.
Aww.
Where do your parents live? In California?
Nebraska.
Oh, I did not know that. Yeah, we'll give people a minute to hop on. We're just applying our oils, drinking our tea. Oh, there's her video.
I'm here.
We see you now.
Well, we'll probably turn it off.
What's that?
We'll probably turn it off. We just finished a quick dinner, so we'll go into the living room and I'll probably turn off the video so you can't see how messy we are.
Okay, well, good to see you briefly.
You bet.
It was like a phantom ding.
Yeah.
It was my iPad.
Oh. Hi, Kim. Everybody. Leslie, no worries. Nobody has to have their video on. Just nice to wave if you do.
I was listening to this podcast and they were talking about, what were they? It was something they were going to do. Oh, it was breath work.
Mhm.
And they were talking about sometimes when you do breath work, like it gets really like you make noises and people go to like different places with it. So the host was like, I'll join. She's like, but I'm not having my video on and my sound. She's like, I don't want anybody to know what noises I'm making over there.
Well, I'm doing it. Yeah. And it's weird. Normally we would do something like this in different places, but we weren't really sure the Wi-Fi here could take us being both on a live call at once. So we'll see how this works to sit together.
And it's fun because we're actually in the house together. And
here we are. Chynna drove through horrible snowstorm last week in Billings to get here. So, but it's beautiful here. The sun is shining. We've had a nice couple of days. It was really chilly over the weekend, but yesterday and today have been really beautiful. So the Montana October that we should have been having. So. All right, well, it's a couple minutes after 4 o'clock here, so I think we'll jump in, and I'm not going to do too much talking. I'll let Chynna do most of the chatting. But for those of you who don't follow her online or haven't seen her before on any of her videos, this is Chynna Haas, intuitive business healer, and she's going to chat with us today because she does so much work with business and in fact has specific guides that come through to give business advice and feedback about how to bring our big vision into the world. And, you know, it's very common really for all of us, and whether or not your big vision really could be anything, you know, not necessarily work related, but could be work related. And I think that we've both experienced this in our own lives, and you know, there's some common, you know, stumbling blocks and those types of things that she's going to share with us today. And if you don't know, she's here as part of the Intuitive Healer in Residence program, which was a really big vision we both had independently, and then figured out that we were both having this vision. And so that's why she's here for the month of October, bringing some of these programs, some of her wisdom and her experience, both here to our local community, but also in a few online formats like this. So thank you to you for sharing this with the following Hawks crew that I just one time said Hawk flock. I called the Hawk flock in an email, and now over the weekend everybody says you have to use that. So apparently the Hawk flock is a thing now.
Hashtag, you can hashtag it.
Hashtag Hawk flock. So thank you for doing this for the Hawk flock, and thank you to all of you for joining us. And I'll let you take it away from here.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Yes, so like Amy said, I have 3 guides that come in, and so I kind of feel that's who's going to be coming in for most of our time together. And they work just with the clients I have that are entrepreneurs and business people. I went to say them and they're like, you know, whatever you want to call yourself in the business world. And so we're going to talk about today is about embodying your vision. And so really where that comes in is I think that a lot of us have kind of like a little stirring, at least, of some vision of like, why are we here? What did we come here to do in this lifetime? It can be professionally, like within your work. It can be within like, this is my career, this is my calling, this is a business I'm going to start. For some of you, it's not necessarily that. It's a different type of energetic exchange, but it's some calling, some soul stirring that you have as far as like what you're here to do and why you chose to be here at this time. And so I work with clients a lot to figure out like what is their big vision. And then from there, though, it's really about embodying the vision. And I think where that comes in is like, I know I went through this for a long time where it was like, I had a vision and I started to conceptualize myself as this person that was doing that work. And it was like, yeah, like this is totally what I'm doing. And I actually went out, it was a friend that I'm not friends with anymore, probably because of the story where she didn't do anything wrong. But she reflected back and she's like, it all seems to be in your head and you're not really doing it. And I got really mad because it was the truth. And and I was frustrated because I was like, but I am like, look at all these things I'm doing. And like, I even had started a business. I had built the website, I put things out there, but I wasn't embodying it. I wasn't putting myself in the world in that way as doing this work. And I wasn't really, honestly, like aligning my action in my life with the work that I was called to do. And so I see that a lot for clients as a stumbling block, whether they're just getting started and they're like, I don't know what it is that I'm here to do, or clients that have like hung their shingle out in the world. They're like, here's the thing I was born to do in this life. And then they get stuck at some point of like, I don't know, nobody's hiring me. It's not coming together. My sales are low. You know, some barrier starts to come into play. So what I'm going to be sharing with you guys really started as, I did it as like a 6-day like free experience in my group, and it was all channeled from spirit. So I'm taking that and adopting parts of it into what we're going to go over today. So my plan is to be able to talk for a little bit and then to give you guys time at the end that if you have questions either about specifically things that I shared, or even if you have questions you want to ask about kind of your situation, short questions, but spirit team's going to be with and able to answer those as well. So we'll have some space for questions at the end. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So where I want to start with us is about the big vision. And a few different things here is I see a lot of times for people as they conceptualize like, this is this big vision because it feels like a soul stirring. It feels really scary to say it out loud. But most often what I encounter with folks is that it's actually not really your big vision. It's a vision. It's the beginning of the vision, but it's not the big vision. It's not the like,
big visions are scary,
right?
Like the really big vision, right? It's hard to imagine it sometimes.
And I'm laughing like out of what we did this weekend too. Like we're doing like timeline stuff and interdimensional stuff this weekend. And it's
crazy.
Like, you start thinking about like your big vision was like worth you choosing to come back in human form and do it. Like, so it's big when we start thinking about connecting to like some of this other spirit energy where it's like, it's pretty nice when we're like on the spirit side of things and we don't have the human body. So like, it's like the phrase when, you know, oh, it was worth me getting out of bed in the morning. Like it was worth you incarnating for. Like, that's what your big vision is of like, so it's big. So I always tell folks, like, as you're starting to feel into it is like, it starts with that place that like, it is the soul stirring. It's like, there's something in the world I feel called to do. I feel like I'm hearing messages about, I'm feeling like, here's a gift I have to share. Here's an experience I've had that I want to talk about or connect to people about. That tends to be like the beginning of the stirring. And I know too, like we've talked about this a little bit, like, what do you think was kind of your first like stirring of your vision coming together?
It really happened in like little chunks and pieces, which I think is a good example of like, I couldn't even imagine a big vision, you know? And I think even where I'm at now, like there's still a much bigger vision that I haven't imagined. So maybe, I mean, maybe even that, like it happens in pieces and chunks, but I think we talked about this a little bit over the weekend that I had a point where I realized I was getting frustrated in my kind of daily life of like, this isn't what I want, but I couldn't figure out how to get to like the next thing.
Yeah.
And it was almost like I had to imagine myself being a different person who was doing those things. Like, it was almost not a matter of just saying like, what should I be doing right now? It was almost a matter of saying, well, what would the person be doing right now who's the person I want to be? It was almost like I needed that outside of myself step of like, if I can't do it, this other magical person can do it.
Totally.
And that really did help me like shift and get out of some of that frustration.
Yeah, because it's easy, I think, too, like the couple things I think that come up for people is you start going like, here's this thing I feel called to do, but like, I don't have enough education, I don't have enough money, nobody's gonna believe me, nobody's gonna listen. Like, you get through all the excuses, or like you're saying, like you start to know, like I knew for a long time I was an entrepreneur. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I just knew I was an entrepreneur. Like, you start to look at the life you're living and go, there's a different life I want. And then so piece by piece, you're like trying it on. Or like you're saying, I always talk about now, like it's my future self. Like I make choices for my future. I'm a bit of a procrastinator. So I try to make choices of like, is this going to make future self, like my future self, like worse or better? And so it's like, oh, I could take the 5 minutes right now. Like I just cleaned the cat litter box before we hopped on. Cause I was like, that's been nagging on me. And I'm like, that would be really nice to do for my future self now. So when we get off the call, it's not lingering.
It's already done.
Right. And then you start translating that though into your vision of like, okay, so my future self, when I can kind of suspend my current reality and this current reality where I feel limited, my current reality where I feel I don't know enough or I don't have enough or there's missing pieces, if I can suspend that briefly and I can start to feel into this other version of myself, my future self, some type of person who would be having the life that I want, whatever that looks like for you, but feeling into that other space of like, what would it be like if I woke up tomorrow and I was doing the thing my soul wanted to do? What would I do? Like, how would you actually spend your time? Like, and I still have clients I take through that. We were even talking about this before in my own business of like, as you continue to grow and expand, because entrepreneurship is the most intense personal spiritual development course you will ever sign up for. You will continue to expand and you'll come to this point where what you're doing is like, okay, well, that was a version of my vision. And as Amy's saying, like you step into, there's another vision. There's a next layer of the vision and a next layer of the vision and a next layer. And some of us though, we kind of start to feel like, even if I don't know the specifics of the vision, you start to feel, and I want to really honor this for those of you that have it, where like you might get a download or you might have a knowing that is you standing on a stage or you sitting on an interview with Oprah talking about your book or like something like that that's pretty big. Not everybody has a journey that is like that. We'll talk about that too. But if you get some sort of soul stirring that feels big or audacious or bold and you're like, who am I to think that? If it's not coming from the brain, if it's not coming from ego, but it's coming from soul, that is your soul's calling. That is your soul giving you a little bit of information to give you the breadcrumb to keep moving down the path of this is eventually going to happen. You don't need to know how now. You don't need to be doing that work right now. But it's telling you like trust and have the faith and take the divinely guided action to the next step. The other thing I want to really say too, because I think this is a barrier a lot of us have in our brain. Bigger is not better. Bigger is not more important. Like bigger doesn't mean that you've like figured it out or you're successful. How it's been shown to me by my guides is that each of us, when we choose our path of incarnation, we choose, this is the work I'm coming here to do. And then we have soul agreements, soul contracts, we have energetic agreements with the people we're meant to be of service to. So I've had people I've read for and I've done work with where they have a soul agreement of a couple hundred people. That's their success level. That is, they have a couple hundred people they are meant to be of service to in this life. I've read for people that have had a couple million people they're meant to be of service to in this life. There is no hierarchy there. One of them is not better or worse than the other. One of their life paths is not more important or worse than the other. And this comes into business too, because a lot of what, like I talk a lot about the new paradigm of business. The new paradigm is about like collaboration and it's about service and it's about genuine connection. The old paradigm is a lot of this like outdated sense where there's a hierarchy. Like if your email list is 1 million people, that's better than your email list being 500,000 people. And it's way better than your email list being 50 people. And in reality, it's like that matters in a sense because we are still like in this like earth plane where like, yeah, you want to reach more people. But I always say, like, I would rather have an email list of 10 people that they are the people I have soul contracts with to serve than have an email list of 10,000 people where there's only 10 of them that I have a soul contract to serve. Because I can better manage the 10, and those are either scenario the people I meant to be of service to.
So how do we know between, how big that container is if we're not specifically getting that message? Because for instance, I feel that way sometimes of, it feels too big to me to get to a point where like I have a whole, group of people that, work with me. Like it feels like I want it only as big enough as I can handle.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what feels good to me. But does that mean my vision isn't big enough? Or does that, have I just not reached the point where I feel like I can hold a container that big?
Yeah.
Or like, is that really the container?
That's a really good question, because I think that's where people get into of like, am I just not dreaming big enough? Because right, we see all the messages like dream bigger, go bigger.
Right.
So am I not dreaming big enough, or am I actually like at the right, like I'm feeling the real container, like I'm feeling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one thing I take clients through, and you can always do this in your own way, but I do like a guided meditation with them where basically we go to this place, we tune in to our soul, which like, so a lot of us are like, oh, I'm connected to soul. It's working to that place of when you connect in and you're creating and you're serving from that place. Where I always see it as where I think we get stuck is we go into soul, we get truth and we get wisdom. And then I always see it like, it's like you're coming back up from this like big hole in the earth. And like, we start to get stuck. We start to get like, I don't know. Like, and we like let go of some of the meaning, or we pick up new meaning along the way. And then when you make it back up to the ground level is like, oh, and it's like very complicated now, and it's very confusing. And it's like, I don't know what soul is or what's not anymore, because we've like gathered and let go of things we weren't supposed to. So I always take clients through this like guided meditation space where we go in, connect to soul, and I take them and we start envisioning basically like the energy of the people they're meant to serve coming in. Couple things to say about that. One is the people you're meant to serve will come in waves, and they will match the vibration and frequency of where you are now. And that will kind of be like that certain size. Like if you're at a place where like, I cannot hold a container for 10,000 people, Spirit's not going to like roll 10,000 people up on you right now. Like if you're like, I can hold a container for 10, you might start to feel the energy of 10 new people coming in. So we go to that space where we start to feel into like all the layers come down, we're down into soul, and you start feeling into, okay, I always envision it like there's a ship coming in. And then I use the information from the guided meditation of like what the ship looks like, how big the ship is, to start sounding out how many people are arriving. And then as people get off the ship, I start to learn more information about them. Okay. And then I always say too, is in that meditation space, is I have clients look out and say, what do you see? Are you on a lake? Are you on an ocean? Are you on a river? And are there more ships coming? And most of us have more ships, but like I had one client that she had like little canoes rolling up. And so she was serving a couple people at a time, rolling up in their little canoes. And I had somebody else that had like a cruise ship rolling in that she's like, oh my God, there's like 10,000 people getting off this thing. Because that's the container of like where they're at and what's coming in. And so a couple pieces, right? So one is like going to whatever that journey looks like for you to get really into like your soul place, and just being open and even asking like your guides, or going to the meditative space and asking your soul, just give me a sense of how big the container is. Like, give me a sense of how many people. And depending on what your gifts are, right? I like to do it visually where I'm like, show me a stadium and fill up however many seats of people into the stadium that I'm supposed to be of service to. Or show me like a room that they all can fit in. Show me a ship as they're arriving. So using those visual exercises with your guides or with your soul, that's sometimes a way to start feeling into what is the container I'm supposed to hold. And then also to giving a sense of, is this the final container, or is there an expansion? And so it's one of those intuitive things. Start working with them and you'll get more of that truth stepping in, where they're like, okay, this is, you have a yacht coming in right now, but you have a cruise ship behind it. Or you have the canoe coming right now and you got canoes for about 10 further back, and then we're going to switch to like a sailboat. Right. So that's a big piece for people. I think it's a great question of what is it?
I like that idea, because it's not like you have to either be ready for all or nothing, right? That it's like, it can be a little bit, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, until it's, and that like each level is a comfortable place for you to be.
Totally. Yeah. Well, another thing too is I meet with a lot of clients that they're like, they're struggling in some way in their business, and they're like, I need to have X number of clients a month to pay my bills, or I want to have X number of clients once because that's the thing they've said in their head is success. And then they get really frustrated because they're like, well, I'm not getting that many. And another piece I work with a lot is I say, like, I'm an intuitive nerd. And so Spirit works with me a lot with technology, and they call technology like your sacred support system. So I start working with clients where it's like, okay, well, tell me about like your onboarding process. Like if somebody signs up for, let's say you're a coach and you have a program, or you're a body worker, how do they book a session with you? Or you're an energy worker, how do they book a session? Like, and sometimes it's like, how do they even pay you or hire you for anything? Like they don't have any sort of business offering out there.
Right.
And so we start talking through, and it's like, they actually have parts of that either aren't complete, aren't done, aren't put into the world, or they have pieces of that where there's bottlenecks, where it's like, well, I want to do a contract of some sort, but I haven't put it together yet. Or I don't really have it sorted out how I'm going to take payment. And so what that creates to Spirit then is there's some sort of bottleneck where they're not going to bring all of those people in because you're not actually ready to receive them. So that's some of the stuff too that points to, like, you might start feeling that energy of them arriving, but where people start to get into that disconnect of why aren't they coming in, is really just looking at it, and not in the sense of like things you have to do or some strategist told you to do, but in the sense of like, okay, all of that aside,
Right.
my ultimate work is to be of service. How am I serving others? And we're going to talk about energetic exchanges in a minute. How am I serving others? And in a monetary exchange, what does that process look like? Do I have a way people can pay me? If they need to book time, do I have an easy way that they can do that? If they're buying a product or service, do I have an easy way that they can make that purchase? I get so like heartbroken when I see, especially like people that are intuitive and healers and in the world in that way, artists as well, where it's like they go, oh, well, you have to like message me here, and then I'm going to message you, and then we'll do, and it becomes this like huge explanation where I'm like, I'm trying to give you money. Like, how do I give you the money? And I think that's where a lot of people end up, where they're like, they want to be in an exchange with you, and we make it really, really hard. And the other thing I want to say too is about energetic exchanges. Like, money in our world, in this paradigm, is a measurement of an energetic exchange. That's all it is. We make it really big, we make it really complicated, we add a whole lot of other meaning to it, but really money is a stand-in for energy. So if you're like, I offer a 60-minute session doing whatever it is I do, that's your part of the energetic exchange. I'm providing the 60 minutes, I'm holding the container, and I'm doing X, Y, and Z within that container. What you're getting back then is it needs to be something that feels fair and balanced. It needs to feel fair and balanced for you, so you keep wanting to serve in that way, so you don't get burnt out. You're able to meet your basic needs in your life and for your family. But it also needs to be that they're giving something as well, and we'll talk about too whether it's money or not, but they need to be giving something in, otherwise it doesn't feel fair to them either. And even if somebody's like looking for a deal or wants to not pay or whatever, ultimately in the big picture, they will come to a point on some level that doesn't feel like a fair exchange. And I've had clients where they're like, every time I give like a free gift certificate away and like a community silent auction or something, they're like, without doubt, the person that ends up getting it and comes in is somebody that like didn't like the session, or they had complaints, or like they get these weird exchanges that happen. And it's like, because the energy's out of balance a lot of the time. So money is one way that we exchange energy and time. Like another way though, like especially when we start looking at like as you're building your community online, like all of you to find out about this, I'm pretty sure probably gave Amy like your email address at one point. That's an energetic exchange. You gave her your email address, which is like access to your inbox to communicate with you whenever she feels like it. And then what she's providing back to you are calls like this and services and her stories and that in her blog posts, like the ways that she's teaching and holding space. That's her energy back in exchange for you providing that support in the email. And so we look at like, there's all these different ways, especially in the new paradigm, where energetic exchanges that aren't just monetary, but could be monetary in the exchange. So I think that's important for people as we end up a lot of times as we start going from that place of big vision to like fully embodying it. It's really hard that first time for somebody to put their shingle out there usually and say like, here's like, there's money involved, like there's an exchange involved.
Right.
And then for a lot of people, they get tripped up either of like worthiness, like, am I worthy enough to charge for this? What's the right price? One thing I want to say about price too, I don't believe in competition, like vehemently do not believe in competition. Each and every single one of you is doing something different. Like every one of your faces I'm looking at right now, you each could be a body worker. You each could be a car mechanic, whatever. And you each are going to do it in your own way with your own energetic frequency, which means you have your own people to serve. So competition's not real. But when we start thinking about that, when competition's not a thing, collaboration is. So like if you're in a town and let's say you're a massage therapist and you're like, your worthiness crap is coming up, and you're like, I know the going rate in town is $70 an hour for a massage. I'm going to charge $20 because I don't feel worthy to charge $70. you think that it's really just impacting you, but what it's really impacting too are those other massage therapists in town, because now you're undercutting them. And so even though it's about your own block and your own stuff, it has a ripple to the rest of the community. So not pricing yourself lower because of competition, but feeling into, instead of like, how can I have this collaborative energy with other body workers or energy workers or whoever, whatever field you're in, of those people like in the same space as you. Like that's a really important thing too.
Yeah, well, so what's interesting is that I like to ask spirit like that question, first of all, because your guides will be very direct on what you should charge for something, I have found, and kind of removes our own like filter that we're putting on things. And it's usually a number we don't feel comfortable with.
Yes.
But even, and we talked about this in the Earth Tenders Academy a little bit last week, that when I first started doing property readings, I was, you know, I okay, well, tell me how to do this, show me whatever. But then I still felt like I was in a place of like, can I really do this? Can I really, like, do I actually know what I'm doing? You know? And so when I had that kind of session and tune in with my guides, they were like, you can offer 5 for no charge, but they need to be in exchange for a testimonial that you can put on your website, so that then, you know, it was still an energy exchange, but I got a little bit more experience with, you know, because it was something that they had channeled through me in that way. And then they gave me the price going forward, and and I just did it.
Yes.
It was very scary.
Yeah. Because that's been my experience too, is like the number you get, like if you tune into your guides and you're like, I want to do this, I feel like, and especially too, if this feels like this is your soul calling, it is your soul mission, spirit's helping support you intuitively with it, that's your soul truth. So your guides, you have at least one guide that's working with you on your business. A lot of us have, pretty much all of our guides are working with us on our business in some way. And so if you ask them, they will give you a fair number. They will give you like, and they'll give you some instruction. So that's what I think is so cool too about entrepreneurship this way, is like, it's part of your intuitive development, like, because you're working with your guides, you're strengthening that relationship and connection because they have guidance for you. Like same thing too, like if you come in a situation with a difficult client, like I'm always like tuning into spirit, like, what do I do? You know, and they'll say like, this isn't a fit, or this, like, here's what the problem is. Here's what you're being asked to do to navigate this. You know, I had one we've been talking about where I'm like, it's a boundary issue where I'm having to learn better boundaries and like understand like, what is my work and how do I hold the container of my work and not go off and do things that are the easy money. Because I've had a lot of clients who bring this up too, where they're like, right now we are kind of standing between 2 paradigms. We're in the old paradigm way, which is like, the world we're used to, business that we're used to, it's being done how we're used to. And the new paradigm is like stepping into more of like an energy of flow, more of that collaborative space, more of like, we're able to put our shingle in the world at a soul level work, and everybody else is able to be supported too in their soul level work. And the world functions, like the world goes on and functions there. In the 2 worlds though, like we're straddling them. We have 1 foot in each. And so you have times where like, I got bills to pay and I'm doing the soul work and not enough money is coming in to do that.
Right.
And so I just tell clients, like, it's totally fine to do something that you're like, you know I can do this and this is what I can charge. Like I had a client who, she did a very special type of massage therapy. She was specifically trained in a different aspect and different modality. It was harder to explain that to people. She had clients, but it was like a slow build instead of like a quick yes. She's like, I don't feel aligned with clients that just come in because their neck hurts or they want a spa day. Like those aren't my people. But so we kind of talked about it, and she for a length of time was taking on those types of clients because it was easier income. It was more stable income. But I was like, you need to set a container of how many per week or how long you're going to do it, or some sort of boundary on that exchange, and then continue the work to step into, like, you're not going to just like go all in on that and ignore your soul calling. If your soul calling is this modality and your unique spin of the modality, that needs to be happening. We're just kind of giving a bridge in the paradigm we're in to get money coming in to pay the bills. And so I really work kind of in that practical way where it's like, spirit gives us a lot of information and a lot of stuff we need to do, but really working with them of like, how do I do this in a way that makes sense? So whether that means you keep your corporate job before you take a leap. I didn't do it that way. They told me to quit my corporate job before I was ready. And that's how it goes for some of us too. But trusting that and continue to do the work and put the effort in. And so kind of 2 things I want to say too about embodying the vision. Like, and these are sometimes the harder pills to swallow, I think, for people, but these are where you see like time and time again where we get stuck. So I always look at it as like our soul vision, like it comes from like deep inside of yourself, but really it's coming from like source energy. So I always see it as like, it's this beautiful, like bubble or feather or something that I see in the sky and I want it. And I'm like, that's mine. That's something that's my journey. And you grab it and you're trying to like bring it down into reality. And that's where we start going through the process of like, can I do this? Can I put it in the world? What does it look like? You start building a business, you start charging, you get into the reality of having a business where you're charging. That happens. And so where I see people get stuck like in this process a lot is kind of one is like your core philosophy. This is a piece that like sometimes is odd to people. But so your core philosophy isn't just like, oh, I'm a massage therapist. I always pick on massage therapists because I love them and because I think that there's a lot of these aspects that they encounter that I think are really interesting. So looking like at massage therapy, I've had clients who are in that world and they'll come in a lot and be like, I'm like, well, why do you do it this way? You know, why do you structure your services this way? Or why do you charge this? Or why do you do your sessions in this particular way? And a lot of times their answer is, well, because that's how I was taught in school, or that's what other massage therapists are doing, or that's what the industry does.
Right.
And so that's all fine and well. Like, especially when you're starting out, that's a good starting point. But as you get into it, each and every single one of us not only has the training that we have and like the earthbound certifications and all of that, we have that soul calling. And I truly believe that that soul calling comes from all of our experience in this life. It comes from all of our past life experience, all of our like family lineage, ancestral lineage, all of that kind of plays into like your unique signature of why you're here. So whatever industry you're in time, you start sounding out your own philosophy of it. And so that might actually ask you to deviate from the industry standard. That might actually ask you to deviate from what everybody else is doing and like put your shingle out there and go, this is how I'm doing it. This is my core belief. So your core philosophy gets into like, how do you practice what you practice? So the actual like mechanics of how you do it. Why do you do it? What like your actual way of describing what is happening within that container you're holding. That's kind of the biggest one I see for people where they're like, oh, but marketing says I have to find people's pain points and I have to talk about the pain point. And it's like, there's a time and a place for that. But like, if you're just going, here's the baseline pain point of why somebody should get a massage, using that example still, or why somebody should come in and get car maintenance done, or why somebody should come get their hair done, whatever industry you're in. If you're only going there, you're completely watering down your unique aspect of the container. But when you can kind of sound into like, here's the container I'm holding, whether it's through service or whether it's through a product I'm creating or art that I'm creating, here's the container I'm holding. Here's what's actually happening in the container. Here are the people that I feel called as I tune in and I start to understand the people I'm here to serve. Here's what that all looks like. And then from there, you start extrapolating out your philosophy. And I'll tell you guys, like sometimes your philosophy is really scary because it does go against what everybody else is doing.
Different.
Yeah, like I'm a marketing specialist. Like that's how I got started and I don't believe in marketing. So that was terrifying the first time out loud. I had to say like, I don't believe in marketing and advertising. And people are like, what is your job again? And I'm like, good question. The container I'm holding is, you know, but you start to really come into, this is who I am. And like I said, was it worth getting out of bed this morning? Was it worth incarnating in this life? Like, so you're not meant to just go with the pack. You're meant to say like, I've learned things. I've had awakenings through my experiences in this life and they led me to what I'm doing. But this is like my soul level truth of the work that I'm doing. And so there's other companies too that I think do really well of embodying their philosophy, even like in the service space or the consumer goods space. Patagonia is one that I think does a fabulous job of embodying the vision. Because they really are like, this is who we are as a company. And sometimes too, your vision, like your philosophy will step outside of your like space that you're working in. So I have a lot of beliefs about like commerce. I have a lot of beliefs about how the world should actually be functioning and operating outside of business and entrepreneurship. But they're part of my core philosophy. Like they're the reason that I do the work that I'm doing is to help shepherd that reality in too. So that becomes part of my core philosophy. But then also too, like your core philosophy gets really big. It also gets really micro. So like I have clients who are like, oh, I'm really into sustainability. I'm like, cool. So when I came to your space, like you had paper towels, you had like regular chemical filled hand soap, like you have all these different disposable things. Like, so you start really looking at like, okay, if you're going to say core philosophy I have is sustainability, then you need to start walking that talk and bringing that into your business. So whether that's like your event planning and you're using compostable products, or whether that's like, you know, I have some clients that print a lot out and I'm like, okay, you believe in sustainability and you're printing like packets and you're printing stuff on glossy paper that can't really be recycled, like, can we still either not print and go digital, or can we take it and we actually bring it into, there's a greener, more recycled way of what paper you're choosing or what ink you're choosing or whatever.
So really you're just thinking through, as you're getting into embodying your vision and, and bringing these things forward, just really looking like, is it truly embodied?
Yes.
Like, and which obviously doesn't happen overnight. Like,
it's totally a process.
But kind of looking for those opportunities to live your vision outside of just like an offering or, a specific thing that you do.
And I think, like the old paradigm was really like, oh, here, I'm going to put my shingle in the world and this is what I do. And then I go home, like at 5 o'clock, I'm done, and I go home and I get to be me. And I think the new paradigm is really summing up, like, you are your work and your work is you, not in an unbalanced way, but in a, this is the ultimate expression of your soul. So you should be your soul self fully and completely in your work and fully and completely in your life. And so, like, even to like how you walk through the world, like I went through a period of time where I said I was not going to go to any more networking events. And that was like super controversial. But for me, that was my truth of like, if I was truly going to embody my vision, I wasn't doing it there. I was having to shrink in. I wasn't expressing from my soul. Like I wasn't able to do it in that space at that time. Yeah. So I had to make decisions in my own work of how do I bring my life and my work more into like that soul level alignment. And so it feels in a way like it's scary and hard at first, but it actually is really liberating. I feel like when we start to really get underneath it, of like, it's a permission slip. You get to go in the world and be who you actually are fully and completely in the world and in your work.
Right.
And so I think that's like a huge gift.
Yeah. And let me ask you, I mean, to go back a little bit, but also on, on this subject, if you're in a place where like, the feather's still kind of up here, or you're kind of reaching for the feather or whatever, I went through a long period of time where like the message, I was receiving messages, right? I was and repeatedly being told, for instance, like your work is with nature, or your, whatever. But I mean, I spent a long time being like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. Either like, what do you do, or what suggestions do you have when you're kind of in that place where you're like, I see it, I feel it, I maybe hear it, but it's not tangible yet. I don't know what to do.
So my answer is going to seem contradictory, but it's take it seriously and have fun. And so, the have fun piece starting there, like, so I have been able to like communicate, see, interact with spirits since I was like a little kid. Like my first memory of it, I was about 3 or 4 years old. When I was 25 though, I started to realize like, oh, this can actually help other people if I work with it intentionally. So I went through this whole like intentional reawakening to like open my gifts more. And then I took it really seriously. I had notebooks. I was highlighting things. I was like studying when I wasn't at my corporate job I hated, selling stainless steel tubing. I was at home talking to spirit, trying to talk to spirit, like learning like, oh, I'm going to learn automatic writing. Oh, I'm going to learn mediumship. Like I was trying so hard to learn and to do it right. Then I had an intuitive reading and my great aunt came through, and her and my great grandma, and I got really mad at them because they told me, they said, you're trying too hard. Go to the park and play on the swings, put down the notebooks, like stop studying. Right. And I was like, but I am doing so well and I am taking it so seriously. And they were like, go have fun. And I've stuck with that this whole time too, because it's like whenever we try to really push it or force it, especially when we're co-creating intuitively with spirit, it will shut it down. The harder you pull and the harder you want it, it will shut it down. So have fun. Like first in all of this, like as you start getting these intuitive knowings, I so know and relate to that feeling where it's like that desperation almost of like, I want it to just come in. I just want to know.
Like I'm happy to take action. If only I knew what the action was.
Yeah. And then we get really like grabby and really kind of like aggressive with it. We're like, just come in already. And that actually pushes it away. So first piece is just having fun with it. Like, so whatever your level of knowing is, like if you start to go like, I feel like there's something I'm supposed to do. I don't know what it is, but it's different than what I'm doing. Some people are there. From there all the way to like a full business idea, wherever you are, keep the levity in it, keep the fun in it, where it's like, it needs to still feel fun and feel like it is exciting to your soul. The other piece though, is do take it seriously. And I see this time and time again with people, they get an intuitive hit. I have some clients and I love them dearly. I also do just regular intuitive readings, and they will come in every 3 to 4 months for an intuitive reading, and they haven't done one bit of action in the 3 to 4 months. Right. And spirit gets like progressively more frustrated sometimes in these readings of like, well, it's the same thing we've been saying the past 6 months or the past year or the past whatever. And so that's where we get stuck into that, like not embodying, where we start to just open. And for whatever reason, we're like, I don't know enough. It's not clear enough. That's really
Not
scary.
ready,
I'm
yeah.
not ready. And so we don't take it seriously. So spirit might be like, okay, you're working with nature. I want you to go hike at least once a week.
Right. Just be in nature.
Right. And we're like, okay, well, I have to get new shoes and I have to find good trails. And like, I'm not really a good hiker. So maybe I should start with the gym. Oh, well, then I should lose some weight. So maybe I'll start eating healthier. And it becomes this whole like, okay, well, in 3 years, I will go in nature and get the next download. And then the next like breath or prayer, we're like, spirit, like, why won't you just tell me what you want me to do? And they're like, we told you to go in nature.
Right.
Like, we told you just to go outside. And like, so I think too, it overcomplicates. Like if they tell you like, okay, it's something in nature, or if you get like, however your gifts work, however your knowing works, like if you get an image and it's you on a swing set, do you know how ridiculous I felt like as a 30-something-year-old lady going to the park on the swing set, like crying because it was this really intense, intuitive experience? But I did it because that's what I needed to do and they told me to do.
Right.
So if you get this thing where it's like, go to the park, go to the park. If they tell you to nap. Like they're working with you in your sleep. Take the nap. So just taking it seriously with whatever they give you, because it might be these little kind of silly sounding things, but they might tell you like, so true story of how my business came to be. I was in this job. I was selling digital media ads for a regional company, and I was getting progressively like more and more out of alignment with it. And I was like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. But it felt like financially, like it would be too stupid to leave. Like I just had to ride it out.
Yeah.
Started to get all these like signs from spirit that I had to quit my job. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that. And then there was this one week came and it was like, it was this intensity. They were like, you need to build a website and you need to put these services on there. And like, it was just like a ton of like, every night was a new download of this action I had to take. They were keeping me up to 3 or 4 in the morning, like working on a website, building a business plan, like in my version of a business plan, not a real business plan. Like putting these workshops together. They had me put together 24 workshops to happen in the next like 2.5 months. Like they were just like, you have to go. And I was like, holy crap. Like, what do you guys want? But I did it. And then all of a sudden it was September 30th, 2016 came in, and I found myself like sitting in my boss's office going, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to work here. And long story short, an hour and a half later, I was in my car and I was done. Yeah. And it was like, and funny though, is I had put a countdown app on my phone months before this, and I checked it, and it was September 30th, 2016 was the date I set. And I was like, well, no wonder I quit my job today. But it was like, I look at it going, oh my gosh, like I was like having this meltdown of like, what am I supposed to do? And then all of a sudden it was like, they clicked on a little light. They said, remember that website we had you build last week? Right. And all I had to do was like push that live, and there was my business. Right. And so it's taking it seriously enough, because we let all the other stuff come in of like, oh, I don't trust myself, or I don't know enough, or they would never pick me to do that, or maybe that's not really spirit, but that's just what I want it to be. And we make it really hard. Right. So take it seriously and have fun. That totally makes sense. And wherever
and just
you
like
are,
follow each one of the little things, even if they don't seem related, you know?
Totally.
And we did talk about this a little bit over the weekend. Like sometimes it is just following the breadcrumbs, and you pick the breadcrumb up and you put it in your pocket, and you're like,
no
I don't
idea
know how that relates to anything else, but you just do it and go until you find the next breadcrumb.
Well, the other piece too is I really fundamentally believe that like we left wisdom for ourselves scattered in this life. And so like I've had clients be like, I don't know, like I got really called that I needed to go visit this friend like an hour and a half away. And then she was going to this workshop. So I went to the workshop with her, and I started talking to this guy, and I realized it was this guy I knew 10 years ago. And he like did this work, and it was the work. I was like, that excited me. Why don't I do that work anymore? That was a true client story. And I'm like, see what would happen if you like woke up and said, oh, I'm not going to drive an hour and a half. I'm just going to like stay at my house and put her around. Right. And so it's like, you follow the breadcrumbs, like even if they're like, go to this random workshop, that's not at all what you want to do. That workshop might've been where you left some sort of like light bulb moment for yourself. You left some sort of like intuitive download, because a lot of us are actually here remembering gifts and skills that we had from past lifetimes. You know, we're not necessarily here to like keep learning. Like that's such like an American response to things, is like, I don't know enough. I must go back to school. Right. I must get another certification. Right. And it's like, yeah, there's a time and a place to do that, but there's a time and a place. Like I can tell you how many degrees I have, and it's stupid of like, you don't need any more certifications. Like you can be interested in something without getting certified in it. And you can look at it and go, okay, I took a Reiki class, or I took this workshop, and I had some sort of like epiphany from it. That epiphany in and of itself, when you sit with it and you do the work and you unpack it, that's enough. Like you don't need to go, okay, I'm going to pause my path, and I'm going to take a 2-year program, and I'm going to get credentialed. Like some of you still need to do that. Most of you don't. Like, you know enough. in this lifetime and you know enough from the past lifetimes. I always tell people, like, you obviously need to be in compliance with the laws in your state. So if you're feeling like I'm a body worker and you don't have any body working degree and you live in a state that says you need to have some sort of license, get the license, do it. But still, when you graduate that program, do it in your soul way. You've now come through a program that's told you how to be. Don't pick up those pieces. Get the license, get the ability to do the touching, but still come at it in your unique soul way and your unique signature and fingerprint. I always do the thumb because I'm like, it's your unique fingerprint in an energetic way. The other piece too that's coming up, and I want to say with this group, is like anything too in your business, every single piece of your business should be your energetic fingerprint. I'm okay. Like people are like, oh, I want to hire somebody. Like hire people if you can or you want, that's great. But like, don't lose yourself and your energetic fingerprint and your truth in the process of like thinking there's somebody who can do it better than you. Like, yeah, like I do websites, Amy does websites. Like we've talked about that. Like we can do it a lot faster than our clients, and there's a time to hire us, but there's also a time of like, if you are not fully anchored in your own soul truth of who you're doing, hiring somebody outside of you isn't going to fix that. That disconnect will exist no matter how much money you throw at the problem.
Right.
So get clear on like who you are, how you want to be in the world, and that will keep evolving as you keep evolving. But like know that it's not a solution of just knowing more or paying more. It's about your own inner journey to get in alignment with your own soul.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I know. And I was looking at the time. I know we're getting close to the
Yes.
end of our time. And so I wanted to make sure
If
anybody has questions that we make time for that. So you can raise your hand. You can unmute yourself. You can type in the chat. Just let us know if you have any questions, because I know that's a lot of information to come through all at once. So while we're waiting to see who might want to chime in, do you want to let everybody know kind of what offerings you have for the rest of the month if anybody wants to work with you directly?
So I'm going to be in Montana for the month. So if you are in Montana, come see us because we have a lot of stuff happening. But assuming most of you are not, I did a special offering for Amy's community where it's a 1 hour intuitive business reading. And basically what that is I connect to your spirit guides, my spirit guides. There's some guides here in Montana that said they're going to come in. So I'm going to be working over the next couple of days and connecting with them. But they're going to start coming into sessions. And basically wherever you are and your journey of either your business as an entrepreneur or just like your soul purpose, bring that into the space. And it's just an intuitive reading with your guides, my guides, and these Montana guides about what is the big vision? What are you here to do? And then as specific as you want to go. So some clients are like, I want like an 18-month plan. So we let that start to come in. Some clients are really stuck. They're like, I'm at a crossroads in my career, or I'm at a crossroads in, do I want to do this with my business or do this with my business? Any of that. Those are fair things to bring to the session, and we let the guidance come in. Basically those sessions, the intuitive business readings are entirely channeled. So I just connect to guides and I let the guides come in and bring forth what they have. Usually the session's $120 for an hour, and then the special for Amy's community is $97. And I believe we have 6 spots or 7 spots left on the website. So I think she had the link in the email.
I did. There was one in yesterday's email, and when I send this recording out, I'll include that. But I think you have 3 tomorrow and before on
Sunday.
The 20th.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're interested in that, and I actually did exactly that session with Chynna at the beginning of the summer when I had like pages of downloads from my guides on the Earthbenders Academy, but I was like, I couldn't figure out, like there were some functional pieces I couldn't figure out. I'm like, I don't understand if I should do it like this or I should do it like this, or like what information. And it was so helpful to have not only her guides, but also my guides like come through and be like, do it like this and like this and like this. And it was like, gave me the roadmap that I could just like go.
And then you did it really quickly.
Yeah, like because I had all the pieces. Like they were all there. I just like, it was just, I don't know. I couldn't quite like, I needed somebody to almost interpret like that last piece of it that just wasn't coming through to me. So it was really, really helpful. So
and it felt to me too, like in your reading, like the timeline first felt further out, and then like in the reading, they were like, "Oh no, you're ready." Like they were just like, it was just like, "Go do it."
Yeah, specifically, I think what my guys were like, "Do not let anything stop you from putting a sales page up as fast as possible." And I was like, "Oh, well, hold on, like, a little bit of time."
Right? So, they're like, "No, go."
Yeah, so it's really helpful to have that, perspective sometimes, like outside of yourself, or like am I getting this right? Like, am I understanding it right? So yeah, it was really funny. I'm like, oh, I wrote that down. Oh, I wrote that down too. Like it was all in my notes. I just had to organize it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So does anybody have any questions?
You guys can ask anything either about the talk or if you have a specific like business or soul question. I've always been interested in doing makeup school, but I've always resisted it because I don't think it would serve me, but I'm not sure. Also, how should I go about my travel business? I'm working on earning messages or advice. Thank you. Let's sit with that.
And for anybody who's watching this later and
Yeah.
can't see the chat, I'll let you tune into it. But the question is about whether or not to do makeup school because there's a resistance feeling to it. And then you also have a travel business and any messages or advice from spirit. Let me see if I can find. Here. Oh, not done. Okay, and Helen has a question as well.
Okay, so first the makeup business, makeup school, and travel business. I am feeling that resistance with makeup school. I don't know why. What's kind of coming up immediately with it is I feel like it's something that you love, and I think it's something you enjoy. I don't necessarily feel it or see it in a business sense. So that being said, I'd say like if it's something that you're really passionate about and school like financially makes sense to do, it's worth doing. But if it's something you really just love and there's not a business piece to it, or you don't really want to do it as your career, I feel like there's probably other ways around. Like they're showing first like YouTube videos, which I know is kind of the energy of that's like meh. But there's good YouTube videos. Even like there's some sort of like your own design kind of thing, like a mentorship or some sort of alternative way. You're able to like learn what you're desiring to learn for the applications you want to do it in from somebody else that's already in the industry. I'm curious too, like where you live, like if there's any like requirements as far as like to be touching or doing makeup for people, if like school would be necessary. But the energy of it is I could see it more so as, I hate the phrase side hustle, but they're saying kind of like that sort of thing where it's a passion project you do and you potentially are getting paid a little bit for. So I'm seeing even in the sense of like, do you meet somebody or already know somebody that does makeup in like the bridal industry or for local fashion shows or something, and you're able to go as like an assistant or a second and be helping in that space. Because I think there's actually something, I'm feeling it much more down in the sacral chakra, that there's something in that space where there's like a creative expression and like joy that you're getting from doing it, but I don't necessarily feel it like in a full-fledged like sustaining business kind of way. That being said though, free will, like if you want to still do makeup school, I think that's awesome because I do see you doing makeup and I see you in that space and in that world. I just don't think it's like a primary or main income stream. So that's one piece. Travel business. Interesting. What's coming up with the travel business is travel more. Like I think that there's some sort of wisdom you've left for yourself in actually traveling. So I'm feeling that questions around the travel business in the sense of you traveling more and moving more will bring more clarity in the business and what you want to be doing with the business. I'm feeling almost like a stuckness, like, and it's tying back up into the makeup school piece, like creatively feeling stagnant, like wanting to be expressed more. So I feel like, and I don't know what the travel business is, but it feels like maybe it's more of a traditional travel business and you're being called to do more of a non-traditional travel business, and more will be revealed as you travel. I do feel you've sprinkled and left some like nuggets of wisdom for yourself in places to go gather, and that will give you more clarity on the travel business.
Awesome.
Yes.
Sorry, we have a
What's
few coming
next?
into the chat.
Yeah.
So Helen's asking, I have an idea about serving the community, but need some direction on how to start.
Immediately what's coming in for you, Helen, is that there's one or two other people in the community. I don't think they're doing the same thing, but I think they're having that same, it's a similar issue or a similar community of people to serve that they're also feeling, and they're also doing some sort of work or wanting to do work with. So I do feel kind of a collaborative space. Yes, I feel like at least one of them is going to go kind of on this journey of making this happen with you. I feel a feminine energy, and she feels like somebody that actually kind of becomes like a good friend in the process of doing this. It feels like probably like a soul contract kind of connection that you guys had in agreement to reunite here and do this work. But yeah, there already are a couple people in the similar wheelhouse. The other person I feel like is more of like a a jump starter kind of energy. I'm feeling a little bit more masculine. Doesn't mean that he's a man, just more of a masculine energy. Is more like a jump starter. They're showing him like fuel for the fire, but isn't necessarily going to like ride it out for the long haul, but will help bring like connections, even connections to funding together to make it a reality.
Awesome. Okay, Joyce says, I haven't a clue as to what my soul calling or big vision is. I can't distinguish between what spirit and ego are telling me.
Totally. So a couple things are coming up. Like one, spirit is like that knee-jerk, immediate, I don't know where that came from piece of information or knowing. So if somebody's like, hey, do you want to get coffee? And you're like, you start to think about like, oh, well, I haven't had coffee with this person in a while, blah, blah, blah. And like get all the chatter, that's ego, that's human brain. The immediate like yes or no feeling, that's your soul. And where a lot of us get stuck though is we've been conditioned like in our society to move further and further and further away from soul and to listen less. So it feels really distant and it feels really confusing because we've been really taught and programmed, right, to like have peace within our family, to have peace within the school system, like that you learn to just read other people and go with the flow and make everyone else happy. So that's one layer of not being able to distinguish the voice. Part of working with that, though, is really intentionally starting to reconnect to your own soul and your own soul's voice. So little things like I will start doing, it's kind of like how you start working intuitively with your guides even, where I'm driving down the road and I'm like, okay, like I have extra time to get to the store or wherever I'm going. So I take breaths, I grab myself in and I start driving. I'm like, okay, should I go left or right? And I let spirit or my soul or wherever you're intending for that guidance to come from guide me to where I'm going. So that's one way. Another way too is like sitting in, I see you sitting in intentional, they're saying meditation, but don't call it meditation. Quiet space, like just taking some time, phone's not buzzing, people aren't coming in to talk to you. You're taking 5 to 10 minutes a day in quiet and you're really connecting into, okay, my intention for this time is I want to start to feel my soul. I want to start to hear my soul. And you're sitting quietly and you're allowing whatever bubbles up to bubble up. And you're feeling of where is the origin of this? Does the origin feel like it's coming from my brain? Right? And our brain tends to feel very chattery. It tends to feel very like, blah, 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 like a lot of our fears in our brain. Is this coming from my heart? And our heart's a good space, but a lot of times our heart tends to be about other people. Our heart tends to be like, how is this going to impact? Our heart tends to be like kind of worry and concern. I feel my soul down kind of below my belly button into the pelvis. Like that's where I feel my soul. And so a lot of us then you start kind of connecting in, is that where your soul lives in your body? Or feeling into when you set that intention and say, soul, I'd like to feel you, what part starts to feel activated. I do feel like for you, there's some energy blocks I am feeling kind of around the diaphragm. Energy work, body work, start with body work, then energy work. Get some body work done, even just a couple sessions, and then some energy work I think will kind of integrate what gets moved around and opened up in the body work. Because I do feel there's some energy blocks. Throat chakra stuff, I don't know if that rings true for you, but I'm feeling some throat chakra of like not being able to use your voice, the little bit of that tendency of having to be concerned about everybody else. And I think that's leading into these layers of feeling really distant from your soul, because your soul is your own voice. So you can hear everybody else's voice, but you can't hear your own voice.
It's probably very common for a lot of us.
Yes.
Delon is asking any messages or advice about leaving her corporate job. She pays her mortgage on her own and feels very stuck and unhappy in that situation.
I'm feeling like you definitely have a period of transition. So you are like, it's the corporate job, and I keep seeing like it gets like it's fading off in the distance and gets dimmer. I don't think it's like I just one day walk in and quit it kind of thing. I think it is part of a plan. I think it starts to taper away. There's some other aspect of work that you should be doing that's more entrepreneurial in nature. I do also see a corporate, non-corporate job. Like, so you come up with maybe a way you're making some money from the entrepreneurial piece, and then you find like a smaller job, a less hours, less demanding kind of job that you like. Seeing something with people, like even like kind of a front desk or office manager, like some sort of energy there where you like the space, you like the business, you like the people you interact with, and that kind of helps bridge some of the financial piece. So the corporate job's happening, the entrepreneurial piece is starting, you're kind of looking for this other piece. Then the income between the part-time thing and the entrepreneurial thing becomes enough that it replaces the corporate, and that's when it gets to fade out. and then you keep building the entrepreneurial and eventually step back from the part-time. That's what I'm feeling for you right now. Yeah.
I was letting you take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Leslie says, I'm a pretty right-brained person, but studying bookkeeping. This was first to help a family member in a new business, but now thinking about starting this as my own new business. I'm not sure I'd be taken seriously as this is such a departure. I've been all over the place in the last 5 to 6 years and want to settle into one business direction.
You do bookkeeping in a different way. Like, so all of this other stuff, like the other aspects of who you are as a person, that all comes into bookkeeping. And so I feel like almost to the point where like surprise yourself, like how well you do with the bookkeeping and how much you gravitate toward it. But the way that you embody that work and you show up in that work, they're showing me it's part of the paradigm shifting, right? Because part of the shifting of the paradigm in business actually impacts, we need to have people who can support big, like intuitive, heart-centered, healer kind of entrepreneurs in all these other aspects of their work. And so accountants, lawyers, like all those industries now are starting to come on board, you know, bookkeeping, graphic design, like any of these other pieces. That kind of world is still very like old paradigm, current dimension, but it's opening up in this way that like people that are traditionally what we would describe as like intuitive or creative or healers are being pulled into those fields to bring that energy anchored into those industries. So when I feel you as a bookkeeper, that's what I'm seeing as a bookkeeper, is you have some sort of like spunk and charisma and way that you see the world and how you show up in the world that 100% does not need to be filtered or watered down, but needs to go into the bookkeeping world, because like you're going to get people like, I'm showing like people like you, people like me, like people like us that are like, I have a huge block about like who to hire as a bookkeeper, who to hire as an accountant or a lawyer, because I'm like, I don't want that old paradigm where it's like a judgy old dude telling me that like I've screwed my stuff up, right? Or I want to go and be like, hey, my crystals class is like a genuine business expense.
Right.
Like they're gonna look at you questioning versus like you get somebody that is in that world. They're like, well, absolutely it is, you know? And so that's like this bridge. Like I see you really as completely as yourself, and you are an energetic bridge between the old paradigm and the new paradigm. And there's like a lot of love and a lot of trust that I feel people have for you in that space.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's really cool. Like as business is changing,
Yeah.
is seeing how something that, you know, maybe wasn't considered like
totally
intuitive type of a business, how you can completely bring that into that.
I had a reading for somebody one time and she was an engineer, and Spirit's message was, you need to stay an engineer and you need to climb the corporate ladder because we need you in this position as a full out intuitive, making decisions in that place.
Yeah.
And so we're going to see it more and more that these really traditional businesses are all right for an intuitive takeover.
Yeah. Dawn asks, do I continue to offer single Reiki sessions or do them differently? She's being called to group sessions.
Interesting. They're saying like you can do whatever. Single, I think you keep a couple clients that's just their deal. You're going to let them do it. That's fine. A little bit I see you in packages, and I'm not sure if group meant like grouping sessions or doing groups in session. I am seeing the groups of people together in session, which feels different. And I feel like they're saying in a way kind of goes counter to some of the Reiki stuff. I don't know. But there's a way that you come up of doing this actually in a group space. And this is an aspect of your work. I do feel that it's one step and a stepping stone of you kind of doing your business overall very differently. And this is one piece of it is actually, like I'm seeing like 3 or 4 people in the room and there's Reiki happening with everybody. And there's some sort of like you as the Reiki practitioner, but also the energetic space of having souls and bodies present in that space. They're showing me almost like chiropractors that do it. And I'm trying to remember the name of what it's called. But it's like circuit chiropractic or something, but it's like, again, they're working with like Reiki and energy. They have different language for it, but that's essentially what they're working with. And they bounce from one person to the other. And it's moving energy in a very different way. And the healing kind of pops off each other a little bit too. So there is something different you're doing with Reiki in that way. Totally.
Awesome. Okay. Gloria says, I don't feel like I'm being drawn in any direction right now, especially since retiring.
So as soon as like Amy was reading your question, I felt it like down, like in here, very, very warm. something with like caregiving, but they're saying not kids, like they're doing this, but not kids. No. It's not stressful. There's something like, I feel like with you, you have such a beautiful heart that I'm getting like heart space, and I'm getting down here where it's something about connecting to other people, making them feel seen and heard and valued. And there's this like energetic exchange and loop with them of that type of connection, which kind of comes back at you too, that you feel really, really rooted and anchored in those connections as well. Not sure kind of specifics with what's coming up right now though, is something with like nursing homes or senior centers. But it's different than, they're saying it's different than anything that's out there. It's a unique idea that came to you of like, this would make me feel really good. This is like an unmet need in my community. And this is how I want to be out in the world and be a part in this way. So it feels really loving, really nurturing, really like caregiving-ish in that sense, but it's really rooted in connection. Like these are like really, there's a beautiful way I feel like that you connect to people in a soul level way that's very different, and most people don't connect that way, and it just feels very like a warm blanket over somebody to be held. So there's something kind of in that wheelhouse of connecting, heart space, loving, nurturing others within your community. It does feel physical. It does feel like person to person, like in shared space with people.
Awesome. Okay, we got a couple more. I know we're getting kind of long here, so I understand if anybody's got to hop off. Corey says, I have a few reject, is it projects? I think we have a typo probably. A few projects that's been taking a long time to get off the ground. I'm wondering if Spirit sees this project going to follow through to fruition, and if so, or any advice. Oh yeah, sorry, she did correct, a project.
Read it again. So what they're getting me right away is I feel like you're in the wrong field. I feel like there's some sort of energetic disconnect between you and the projects. I don't know if it's like full on like wrong industry, or it's just the wrong client, or it's the wrong type of work, but there is something where I feel like there's an energetic mismatch, like your soul essence of who you are and where you really want to be in the world. These are like maybe a version, but they're not like 100% like in congruence and in alignment with it. So I feel like there's a little bit of like, feels like this energetic like wobbly woo that's kind of happening. And I think that's causing this, like, they're showing me some of what we had this weekend, like being in two different dimensions at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like, so the project's kind of existing in one dimension, your soul's like existing actually in this other dimension, and they're not, it's like the project's trying to happen, and like there's this one reality of you trying to make it happen, and then there's this other reality where like it's like it can't see me and I can't see it and I don't know why, and it's like there's this like that level of an energetic mismatch right now.
Not in the same place at the same time.
Yeah. So I don't know if that actually helps at all, because it sounds like you have to do the projects, but there feels like there's some sort of mismatch right now.
Okay, Lisa's feeling stuck moving forward with business and not sure on a direction, feels blocked when I go to move.
So with yours, I'm feeling it up into the throat. Like wanting to speak and not being able to speak. It feels like it's coming, whether it's this lifetime or a different lifetime, of not being allowed to speak. Everything I say is going to be wrong. Everything I say is going to be stupid. Nobody's going to believe me. Nobody's going to listen to me. Like, it's feeling very throat chakra energy. And so what that can happen is, like, even if that doesn't logically line up with what you're seeing in your reality, it's ways that we unintentionally self-sabotage. So I'm feeling like this need and desire to really want to be like fully open and fully expressed, but it's feeling like it can't be fully open and it can't be fully expressed right now. And then that's kind of causing this energy. Again, they're going to be wobbly woo, which I've never used that phrase before in my life. Some guy is in here like wobbly woo.
Wobbly woo.
So it's getting an energetic wobbly woo that is making it where it's like you're trying, like I can see you almost like you're pulling like a cart behind you, like you're trying to move forward and it's just not getting that momentum. And they're bringing it back to throat chakra, to being able to speak, fully speak your truth, fully speak your message. Like there's some aspect of what you are here to say that you are not saying, and it is time to say it now. That's what I'm feeling for you.
Okay. Kim says, I'm a veterinarian, but have been strongly called to write and strive to be a published author. I have many synchronicities that I feel validate this, but the social media and author platform has me intimidated.
Yes, you're a writer. That's the first thing. I actually feel 3 books in you. Interesting thing too is like, so where I always feel like creative works that are ready to be born is they feel like they're present in my stomach, but they feel like they're living in the womb space. And so that's what kind of just generally for everybody too, they're saying when you start to feel into creative work wants to be born. And so we have like our cycle, men, women, non-binary people, everybody has a cycle. And like part of that is like working with your cycle to create and birth. And it does have like a gestation period and stuff too. So with you, I'm feeling 3 books. It's not triplets. They aren't born at once. They come through individually. I'm feeling past life stuff for you too, where it was a past life of you had to fit in to be able to survive in the community. And that's why I'm feeling like you are especially being impacted right now by that concept of the author platform and having a following and like those kinds of energies, because it's speaking to this piece of, am I connected enough? Am I worthy enough? Am I going to stray too far from the pack? Do I have enough community support? Like, do I have enough validation to do this? So what they're saying is like kind of giving yourself space. I'm seeing some sort of clearing activity where you actually like writing all your fears on a piece of paper and burning them. Some sort of something where it's actually this energy swirling away from you. And as you do it, picture the energy, picture all of those feelings you have tied up in those thoughts and those stories about these author platforms. Picture them like literally burning and leaving your energy and leaving like your core field of knowing. Picture those all just departing. They're gone in flames. They've disappeared. And then in that space, I think the books come up more readily. I see you still in the world as a veterinarian. I see you though doing, because I keep seeing the animals during the day, and there's something about the animals during the day and the writing like in the rest of your space. I don't know if you have flexibility that you could do this, but even dropping down 1 working day a week as you really get rolling with the book. Don't do it now, start writing. Or unless they're saying you can do it now, but you have to then for the next X number of days that you have off, actually be writing the whole day. If you're taking the day off and you're doing laundry or you're cleaning your house, go back to work.
No house admin.
No. Like actual, like you're in the zone, either writing or you're doing character boards or you're hammering out the storyline, whatever. I do also feel you that you could get into nonfiction as well as fiction. I don't know really where you're being called right now, but I do feel you in both. But yeah, there's a reason for you to be staying in the work with the animals, but then I do see you stepping into the writing.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And lots of comments from people just saying, yes, thank you,
Good.
thank you, yes. So, and I mean, I just like, this like blows my mind even. I mean, she just gave like 2-minute readings to like 10 people and like really rapid succession, like tuning into everybody's energy. And so, yeah, that's obviously one of the reasons why I wanted to share her beautiful talents with all of you, because it's just amazing. And you just see like how fast it comes through and like how strong her guides are helping with that. So thank you for sharing all of this and tuning in with everybody and, you know, offering this to our community here and being able to share. It's been really special. And your website is
ChynnaHaas.com.
ChynnaHaas.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
But I will send it out in email, and on her website under the Montana page is all of the different things we are doing this month. We will be in Missoula this weekend for a couple of events. If anybody is there or knows anybody there.
We're in Big Fork on Thursday, right?
Yeah, we'll be in Big Fork doing
and
just some
learning the
office
names.
hours on Thursday, and Kalispell next weekend.
Yes.
So we have a bunch of things coming up both here and online, but reach out to us if you have any questions. And oh wait, we have one more here at the end. Oh, is it a comment? Okay. Let's see. Everybody's jumping in here. Oh, back to it's Sinthu, right? I hope I'm saying that correctly. That was the very first question. Majoring in women's and English and wondering if there's anything she should be doing with those majors. That's with the makeup and
yeah. I'm feeling travel.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say I'm a women's studies and communication arts major, and like, sorry to resonate. Travel. I'm feeling the travel really strongly with you more than anything else. I don't know where you're located right now, but I don't feel in the next immediate part of your future, it's where you're supposed to be. So the travel feels really important. There's some unique way that you're going to be doing work within the travel world. You moving and exploring and seeing the world feels very important. And I get the pull to make money. So even to like finding some sort of job related to travel to start with, as you're building whatever it is the travel thing is that you're going to do. Even if like, so these are just different things that are coming in. First thing that came in was like nannying or like au pair, like that's a way to travel abroad and be able to be paid for that. Different companies, even like if you're into sales, if that's something that resonates at all, there's sales ones that are on the road traveling internationally or nationally. Flight attendant, that might be something that resonates. I just do see you doing something for to start with for money, because loans will be due, all of that. That is more corporate experience as you are building a travel business.
Awesome.
Yep.
And Kim says she's writing fantasy.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I will send some information. I'm really hoping on my Wi-Fi we'll get this uploaded, but I will send the link out because there is a special link to get the special discount if you're on my email list. So,
and it was in your last email, and she did an email like September 13th or something that it was in too. So if you Google Amy and Chynna in your inbox, yesterday's email, scroll all the way to the bottom under the PS, and there's a link to book there. But I will send it again, so if anybody wants, because there's a couple appointments available tomorrow specifically. So thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Lovely to see all your beautiful faces, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.